Welcome to the Heal with Kelly podcast. I'm Kelly Noonan-Gorse, and every week I speak to the leading doctors, healers, spiritual teachers, and scientists to find out what is truly possible when it comes to healing. I also interview real people with extraordinary healing stories. My philosophy is, what's possible for one is possible for all. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful journey of remembering our divine nature and tapping into the truths that shall set us free. Hey everyone, and welcome to Heal with Kelly. Today I am so excited to welcome my dear friend and my doula, Lori Bregman. Let me tell you about Lori. She has, I think you've welcomed and helped 1,500 lives enter this world.
Somewhere around then.
Oh my gosh.
There.
So Lori is a renowned doula, life coach, author of the Doula Deck, Mama Stay, and the Mindful Mom to Be, as well as so much more with her 25 years of experience. She works with moms to be and new moms on all aspects of their personal transformation from fertility through pregnancy and into new motherhood. She is unique in her innate ability to blend spiritual coaching, healing, and intuition, which are fully integrated into her doula practice, and is why I sought her out and hired her. The delivery is just one part of the journey of birthing not only a healthy baby, but also a healthy mother. Lori cultivates a strong relationship with her clients by supporting them throughout the entire process. She's the founder of the Mindful Mom to Be virtual coaching program, a complete mind, body, and spirit support program that helps women throughout pregnancy and birth as they transition into new motherhood. Lori, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, Cal.
Yeah, we're back. We're reunited. This is going to launch around my daughter's 5th birthday. So we went through this fire 5 and 6 years ago.
I can't believe it. First of all, I can't believe she's 5.
I know.
It freaks me out how
it's wild.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we started working together when you were trying to get pregnant.
Yeah.
You're thinking about.
You're like myself, a big manifester. Mm-hmm. And so we were, manifesting the baby. And you always thought, you're very intuitive too. I want to know how you got started. Tell me about your, or tell the audience about your intuition and intuitive powers and how they come into the birth, because you always saw children around me. You can see souls wanting to come in through people. That's the stuff I'm fascinated with. Yeah. You've got your finger in kind of both worlds.
Especially in birth, because there's a portal that opens, yeah. Right? But I'm really intuitive with certain people. I remember we were laying there and you were like, I see this boy around me. And I was like, well, what if it's a girl?
You didn't want to tell me. I was like, no, I'm definitely having a boy. And you're like, well, okay,
what if it's a girl? This was before you even got pregnant. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I'm really tapped into certain people. And sometimes, it's like on the way over here, my assistant and I were talking. And I was like, there's another boy around you. He's coming in. I already feel him. He's coming in. It's not going to be planned. So just get ready. And she's like, oh my God, I just got off the phone with the spirit baby person. And she said exactly the same thing you just said.
Wow.
So there's certain people that I'm really tapped in with. The other day I did a birth and I went to sleep that night and I just knew. I went to bed at 8 o'clock and I was on the phone with somebody. I'm like, I had to go to bed. Somebody's going to go into labor tonight. And then I went to sleep and this little baby came to me and he was so cute. And I was like, she's going to go in. And of course, 4 hours later, she's like, hey, I'm in labor. And I went over there.
Yes, you're totally tapped in, tuned in.
Not with everybody, but certain people more.
And how did you get started how did you become a doula? Where did this journey begin?
I was always drawn to pregnant women and working with them and used to do body work. And I was like the masseuse of Hollywood and really specialized in prenatal massage. And then when I took my prenatal training, they told me about the doula stuff. So I took a doula training and, and then I started studying all these different modalities. Yoga, I started working with healers, developing my intuition, studying herbs and, chakras and spiritual coaching, and kept thinking, how can I gear this towards pregnancy and birth and children and mothers? And then all that just kind of went into my doula practice. But I really think my soul path in life this is my soul path. And it started with my mom's pregnancy with me and how it shaped me, and up through a couple years after I was born. That was the foundation I grew from, and all the healing I had to do from that. I think I came into the world to do this work. Had I not come into the world the way I did, I wouldn't be doing the work I'm doing.
So now I have to ask, how did you come into the world?
Well, it was like in the 60s when women were being, put to sleep with that crazy drug and pulled out with forceps. And, I felt everything my mom felt during her pregnancy. She was not ready to be a mom. She was 18, and not married. And back then was a different time. I was in an incubator. They didn't do the attachment stuff so much back then. So it just kind of shaped me as a person. And then
do you have any recollection of that? Or
I did. Okay. So I didn't. When I took my doula training, my teacher said, Lori, she said to everybody in the class, there's a reason you're here. Something happened to you during your pregnancy or birth, or you as a young child that drew you to this work. She said it to all of us. And I was like, you had that aha moment, but I had no idea about anything. And then I was doing all this healing work on myself. And I was running this program, which was, I was a burden. I didn't deserve to, I didn't feel like I deserved to exist, and that I was unlovable. And it was such a weird, because I was doing hypnotherapy, and it came up. And I was like, she's like, where do you think this is coming from? And I'm like, I have no idea. But it was running my life. It was all the choices I was making, all the guys I was dating, everything I was doing was like really the thing that was running my life. And so she said, all right, well, let's go back in a week or two and figure it out. And I was like, screw that. Let's go back tomorrow. So I came back the next day, and she took me back, and boom, I was in the womb. And I felt so stressed in there. And I couldn't breathe. I had a panic attack, and I don't have panic attacks ever.
Wow.
It was my only panic attack was in that session. And she took me out of it, and she said, what happened to you when you were pregnant? And
when your mom was pregnant.
Yeah. And so, yeah. Whatever. Yeah. What's it called? Freudian slip. Yeah. So I went back, and she said, talk to your mother. So I talked to my mom and my dad and my grandmother, and they all just told me that, she's like, my mom said, Lori, the fact that your soul survived that pregnancy, you were really meant to be here. And, she went into denial. She kept doing things to kind of
try to sabotage.
Yeah. She went into basically told my grandmother that after 5 months that she thought she had a tumor. Took her to the doctor, and she's like, you're 5-6 months pregnant. And, the grandparents got together and said, my dad was like, oh, this is what happened. Her and my grandmother were going to put me up for adoption. And then they told my father, and my dad was like, look, you can either marry me or you're having this baby and I'll raise it myself. And
wow, what a stand-up guy.
I know. He just passed away.
Oh,
I think about that. I know I'm going to cry. But they ended up getting married, and my mom went into a deep depression. And then somewhere around 8-9 months, she got excited about the possibilities of a baby. This would be cute. I'll have a doll to dress up. And
at 18, of course.
Not talking about babies cry and stuff. So, but the energetic imprint was already,
for sure,
set in. So we went, then she ended up going into labor, scared, so scared, and put to sleep. And she said she was crying out for my dad, for her mother, and then put to sleep. And I was pulled out with forceps, and because she didn't really eat very much with me, I was in an incubator, so there was no that attachment. Mm-hmm. And then
it's a very cold entrance.
Yeah, just
forceps, and then
isolation, and then she had postpartum depression, bad. So
so you are on a subconscious mission to change that experience for people.
Yeah, and through the healing work I did, but also I have such a passion and purpose, because I know those babies can feel stuff. And that doesn't mean if you have a stressed out day or you're anxious or this or that. It's when you live in a constant state. And so for me, the more supported somebody is during that whole journey, and the more supported they are during their birth, it does affect the child. And it also how they birth themselves as a mother, you know?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you were so, I could not have done what I did without you. Like, I had a unmedicated vaginal birth, and, you know, I've considered myself having a fairly strong mindset, and I'm like,
You are so strong.
if millennia, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of women for millennia have birthed babies without medication, like, I can do this, you know? So that was my intention, but I knew that, you know, you have your birth plan and then it could go off the rails at any moment. So I was trying to like just go with the flow. And then of course I was 40 when I gave birth. Was I 40? Yeah. I was 40 when I gave birth. And, you know, by that time you're like well into your geriatric pregnancy, which is a terrible term. And because biologically I was probably much younger.
But you know what? Way younger, first of all. And know what I loved about you sought out a doctor, and having me, we never treated you like that.
Yeah.
You know, and
Right.
I think that you went 42 weeks, you know, and I think that mindset drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Of that geriatric at 35 or whatever, 40.
Yeah.
I just did a home birth with somebody a couple of days ago. She was 41, 42.
Yeah.
And beautiful home birth. And it just makes me so upset when people label you, because then it gets into your mind and then you think, I'm too old to do this. I can't do this.
It drops that seed of fear.
Right.
And I'm like, you know, I'm pretty hippy dippy just as far as natural. Obviously, I made the film Heal, and I'm about holistic living as much as possible. So I had this like fantasy of doing a home birth. But there was this fear of like, okay, I am 40. You know, what if there's a complication? Maybe I should just do it in the hospital. My husband preferred me to do it in the hospital. So I did. I sought out a more natural leaning doctor who's delivered, you know, he's old school, and I just love his energy.
He's the best.
Paul Crane.
Yeah.
And then I knew you were going to be there to support, to like be my protector of my birth plan. And you ended up having to like intervene at the very end. You know what I mean? So I guess for those who don't know, describe what the purpose of a doula is, or what the, you know, energy of a doula brings.
So we don't deliver babies. That's the one thing. People are like, do I need a midwife or a doctor if I have a doula? And it's like, yes, because we don't deliver. And there's a doula out there for everyone. We all work differently. I am very big on education these days. In fact, I'm moving more into educating than I ever have in my life, because I feel if people don't know that they have options, they won't have any. And I'm going to tell you what a doula is in a second, but I'm like on a tangent right now. But people spend so much time on their wedding, and you know, they get great photos and they have this beautiful dress and a venue and flowers and this and that, yet they don't put as much time into their birth, and the birth stays with you for the rest of your life. It'll imprint your child, and you always remember your birth. It's like in you, right? And so it really matters, and more people need to spend more time and not putting it in the hands of somebody else.
Right.
So doulas help educate, we help advocate, we do provide comfort measures and breathing, and you know, like kind of your cheerleader. I work in a collaborative model of care. So like your doctor and I work together as a team to best support your wishes and desires. And that's really important to me. So we're basically a mind, body, spirit support system. Some doulas just do birth, some doulas do postpartum. I like to take people through the whole journey of pregnancy. Most people start with me when they get a positive pregnancy test, or even during fertility. And because I do think all that goes into the birth. The healthier you are during your pregnancy, the healthier your birth is, the healthier your birth is, the healthier your postpartum is. Yeah.
And I love that you're offering this Mindful Mom to Be virtual group, because I'm assuming it's more accessible than if someone to work with you privately. I was fortunate enough to work with you, you know, in my fertility process, and we kind of manifested, and you sent me to the right Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine acupuncturist who helped me in fertility and get everything online. And not that I even had issues. I was just like, I want to prime my body
Yeah.
to its greatest potential. So I never even struggled with fertility stuff. I just wanted to make sure that everything was flowing in the right, most potent manner. And but I do love that this is more accessible with your Mom to Be virtual group, which you can talk about, because for me, having your first pregnancy and birth, it's such a like overwhelming thing, and there's so many. I just wanted to like have someone that I could ask questions to along the way, and just that knowledge and wisdom and sounding board and those comfort measures really allow you to have confidence going into one of the most powerful, like potent moments of being a human, like literally birthing a life through your legs. Like you literally are a portal between two worlds.
Yeah.
It's wild to me.
It's
childbirth.
It's powerful.
Yes.
I mean, and what it was so like, as a doula, I get to witness life coming into the world like 5 times a month, and it never gets old. And each birth is completely different. Mm-hmm. After the 1,500 births I've done or so, no two have ever been the same. And, like I can take a mom of 4 through 4 pregnancies, and each one will be completely different. Yeah. But it is so beautiful to witness just a woman in all her power and her vulnerability, and to hold space for that is like I'm always just feel like it's such an honor to be invited and to witness and to be a part of that.
What do you say? I mean, you've told me stories, and maybe you could recount a couple of your craziest birth stories. Where it's like a mom will just have the baby like go into labor, not really even know they're in labor, get in the car, and then have the baby like on the side of the road, like 30 minutes later just flows out, like what is it just the makeup of, the physical system and the energy? Like how can we, if I were to have another child, like
how can you manifest that?
I want to be that, like the baby just falls out.
Well, I can tell you, usually the second babies are quicker.
Okay.
Yeah, your birth was like 24 hours, wasn't it?
It was 16.
Yeah.
Let's just skate over my birth story real quick so people can go on the journey with me.
Yeah.
So I think I was 10 days late.
I feel like you were 42 weeks. Like you were like right on the cusp of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, Dr. Crane was like fine with me going a little, but then he was like, oh, but I kind of have to leave. And I think it's like the one conflict, it was like his daughter's wedding or something. It was some big thing that was coming that weekend. And he was definitely willing to miss or fly back or whatever, but he was like, well, and I was 42 weeks, and I'm like...
Yeah, he was like, I'll miss my daughter's wedding. And you were like, no.
Yeah, 0 chance I'm letting you do that. But it was enough for me to go, okay, what can I do to naturally induce? So we talked about the castor oil thing. So I believe it was... So I guess on the night of the 21st, or the afternoon of the 21st, I took... You were like, well, it's a 50% chance that it even works. And if it does, it'll take 6 to 12 hours or something. Like, I forgot what you told me, but I was not prepared for it to happen right away. So you take like an ounce of castor oil. It's not the castor oil you rub on your body. It's a different drinkable castor oil.
It's more than an ounce. But but Dr. Crane...
It was 2. It was like 1 hour and then another hour later. It took another...
I don't know what he does it. I have, when I work with the midwives, they have people drink a castor oil smoothie. Oh. I would never recommend castor oil unless you check with your healthcare provider. But Dr. Crane's the one who suggested it because Kelly does not like needles. Yeah. And she did not want to get induced, and she Yeah.
I don't like IVs, but also... I
wanted to do it unmedicated.
Yeah, I wanted to do it unmedicated. I was walking on the curb with one foot off and on the curb. I was walking uphill. I was doing everything to like jostle this baby out.
She was
as
comfy.
Naturally as possible. She was chill. And so even 2 weeks late, she was only like 6 pounds, 10 ounces. So she was a little tiny little nugget in there. And so I did the castor oil. You were like, oh, it might take, 6 hours, 12 hours, if it even works. And then like an hour later, hour and a half later, I start to I'm timing my contractions. I have the little app on my phone. I'm like, they're like 1 to 2 minutes apart, which were not, it was like, obviously this was the whatever that's called, that stimulated the peristalsis.
Yeah, that's the castor oil. The castor oil smoothie does, the castor oil like comes fast and furious, and then it slows down. So.
Yeah. So it did. It jump-started the engine. And then, we went through the night. Dr. Crane came over, checked me at home. You were there. My best friend was there, and my mom was there. And my best friend's like my sister. So it was just this like coven of little witches in the downstairs bedroom, just helping me through it. It was so beautiful and so cool and so intense. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, it was so painful. It's like labor's the right word for it. It's just hard work, and it's like, pain that comes from just exertion, and it's that intense discomfort, but it's not real pain. It's hard to explain.
Well, it also has purpose, right? Yeah. It's like your body. It's just your body opening to let a spirit come through you, and like you're a portal, right? And the more intense it is, the closer you are to meeting your baby.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I was just talking with a doctor and a midwife friend of mine, and people are like, it's not like I don't want to feel the pain. It's, can you like make peace with the pain?
Mm-hmm.
Can you
surrender?
Yeah, can you surrender and know and rethink the pain?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can get into that place of rethinking it, reframing it, rethinking it, like your book Heal documentary, your hero book is on the Mama Portal. I have a virtual online community. It's the book club this month, because it is so much of mindset.
Yeah.
Totally. And you know that, like your mind is so strong. Like
I know.
Yeah,
thank you. I'm just glad I did it, but I honestly couldn't have done it without you. So basically, 3 a.m., 2:30 a.m. I was not opening. The contractions were not consistent. Like they were so much more intense and regular than what my cervix was doing. So there was some disconnect there. And so finally I was like, well, maybe I'm not relaxing because I'm not in the hospital. Maybe if I go to the hospital, then I can relax and like things will open faster. Because I was just like hovering.
And you kept worrying about the car. Remember?
Did I?
Yeah, I do remember you going, I think I just need to get there and set up shop because of the car ride, which a lot of people feel. That's why maybe the next one we'll do at home, Kelly.
Yeah, I was in the bathtub for a long time at home laboring. That was good. I was on the ball.
With the guy, remember the mantra over and over again? The
Gayatri mantra.
Yeah.
And my best friend is like, if I ever hear that song again, I will.
We had it on repeat.
Throw my phone because we had it on repeat. Anyways, got to the hospital. Dr. Crane came and checked me, and then he said, okay, I think that if I break your water, you'll advance faster. And that's kind of what happened. So, and I was like, oh gosh, he comes with this like long skinny tool. I was like, yeah. It was the most warm and fuzzy, amazing relief feeling. Like I remember being so scared that he was going to stick something up me, but he was so gentle I didn't even feel. And then just the breaking of my water was just like, it was wild. And then from there it just kind of kept going. And then I think I was so exhausted. I was like standing up and I was up for 16 hours on my feet, like, laboring. And at that point you're just exhausted. So I think I crawled up into the bed. I'm like, I just want to start pushing. And I was like 9.5 centimeters, and they're like, well, you're not quite ready yet. And I'm like, I don't care. I just need to push this baby out, And so it was like an hour of pushing. And I don't know. I was like, all of the birthing books that I read and the people that just, are really of strong mind, they're squatting on the floor or doing the more natural way for the baby to come out. Not, I guess we're not supposed to be lying on our backs in bed. That's not the best way for the baby to come out, which you can speak to. But I was so exhausted, I just didn't have a choice. I was just like, I can't do anything else. And then I remember there being a disconnect. I had read all these books that you'd given me most, and it was about, hypnobirthing and the breathing and the pushing. And then there was like ecstatic births that I read about, like where women are just like having an orgasm when they birth the baby. I'm like, well, that is not happening right now. I wish it was. Not happening. And it was the way that people were telling me to push in the room was not how the books were telling me to push. So I was so confused. I was like, this is not how I mentally rehearsed. So that tripped me up a little bit. And then you were so great. You were like cheering me on. I remember the pediatrician was like over on the side. He was like, it's a long story, but he was over on the side and he was like checking his watch, you know, and I was like stressed that I was making him late for his other thing or something. And finally, I remember my mom, like she was crowning for a good 30 minutes. And we were like, is she coming? Is she coming? And then Dr. Crane wanted to do an episiotomy. And you were like, no, she can do this. She can do this. She's going to come. Like, so you held him off for a little bit, which he was totally amenable to. He was amazing. And then this is my recollection, and you could have a different recollection, so please feel free. But I remember we were doing pushes of 3, and my mom just came finally in, and poor Carolyn was video, you know, with the iPhone trying to take the video for 30 minutes of this like tuft of black hair coming out of my everything down there. And my mom just like went aside. She's like, forget 3, go for 4. Just push on go for 4 pushes. And then like I did 2 rounds of 4, and that second round of 4, she finally like her head popped out. And then Dr. Crane was just this beautiful, gentle way of actually pulling her out and then handed her up to me. And I was like shaking because I had no strength left. And I'm like holding this purple skinny monkey I was worried I was going to drop her because I had no strength. And you were like just the biggest cheerleader. And then the last thing I'll say, and you can comment on all of it, is, you know, we were like big on delayed cord clamping, because what I had learned is that, you know, getting all of that blood and the nutrients from the placenta, you want it to go into the baby until it goes clear, until it goes white or whatever, until it's done draining back into the baby. And most people cut right away and just cut off that essential nutrients and minerals and all of the goods and the energy, the life force energy. And the pediatrician kind of came in and was like elbowing people aside to like, come on, cut the cord. No. We got to get her over to get checked. You know, he came in a little bit alarmist, and you were like, no, we need to do cord clamping. And they were like, she's not, you know, she's purple. We need to check her. And she wasn't really crying. And like, it was like, he was just like, became so stressful. It was
kind of the wrong energy.
Yeah, it was the wrong energy. But it's okay. He's a good human and veteran, you know, and he was doing the best he could. But we were both like, what? This is not according to plan. And you spoke up as much as you could. And Dr. Crane was like, well, what do I do? You know?
Yeah,
and
Dr. Crane was like, wait, just relax.
Yeah. But he ended up, so there was like a 1.5 minute delayed cord clamping, but it was certainly not enough. And that was a big disappointment.
Yeah. The pushing. So yeah, usually when you're unmedicated, we wait for that spontaneous pushing, and that's what you're talking about.
I kind of rushed it.
Yeah. You were like, I need to push now.
Yeah, that was the Aries in me. I'm like, I'm done. I don't have any more energy. Yeah.
So you didn't have the urge really, which overtakes you. And, you know, and usually when you have that urge, it's, you know, it's not, you're
kind of pushes itself.
Yeah. Well, you follow it. Mm-hmm. So that's why we ended up doing it a different way than we practiced. And delayed cord, the baby's born with, I want to say like 3/4 of a cup of blood still in the placenta and not in the body.
Of its own blood that it needs.
Which is filled with stem cells and oxygen, and it really, leaving that cord attached still gives the baby like a big boost to life if you can, right? Sometimes there might be tight cords around a baby's neck that they need to cut, or if you're banking the cord blood in tissue, you might, you know, cut the cord a little sooner. But I think everybody knows that everybody wants to give the baby some of that blood at birth. You know, Dr. Crane we keep talking about Dr. Crane, well, but there's a few doctors.
He's a legend.
That I've been working with lately that are actually delivering we do this all the time in home births, right? Delivering the placenta with the cord still attached and just leaving it next to the baby for like a long time.
Wow.
But doctors don't get paid and they can't leave until the placenta is out and the cord is cut. And you know, so they sometimes rush that process a little bit.
Yeah, the placenta, I was like, okay, just delivered the baby. And then they're like, okay, now you got to deliver the placenta. I was like, what? I just did all the work and now I got to wait. So I think I had to wait another like 20 minutes before the placenta started to like contract and, you know, because he was like yank, yank, and it wasn't ready to come. So I just lay there and then like deliver the placenta, which is
And that's the other
thing they never tell you.
Yeah, but the other thing is the blood, all that blood, when it goes to the baby, it sends a message to the placenta to like detach from the uterine wall, and then it just kind of comes out. You know, you'll feel pressure.
And that's what I like. The human body is so, and I know that people have lost their lives during childbirth, especially historically, like when we didn't have the technology that we do in modern hospitals and stuff. So there are benefits, but at the same time, it's like it feels like we've forgotten, especially in this kind of like, you know, probably patriarchal hospital system set up, and insurance and just all the things that have kind of muddled and made us forget our nature and how intelligent the body is. It's like, I wish there was just a little bit more of a delicate balance between, okay, honoring the intelligence of the body, really making that a sacred space, and then having the technology be there in an emergency. You know, and unfortunately, we've just used the technology to kind of muscle our way to keep everything moving efficiently and to everybody's schedule and, you know, not make anyone feel anything. You know what I mean? So, and I don't, there's zero judgment on anybody who takes a medicated route. I mean, at the end of giving birth, I was like, I would not recommend that to anybody. Like, I was like, that was intense. So I don't judge at all. I wanted to see if I could do it just from my own personal journey. And I wanted to keep, you know, my baby's body as clean as possible. But, you know, it's all plays its role. And I think that, you know, there's also an intelligence, perhaps, if you don't need to feel the pain, you know, maybe that's probably the smarter route. I don't know.
I mean, I do all kinds of births. Some of my clients get epidurals. I'm big on educating and then supporting people in their choice. Birth, you're not just birthing a baby, you're birthing a part of yourself too. And birth can be the most transformative journey of you've done ayahuasca, you know, it's like an ayahuasca journey. It pushes you to your edge going unmedicated. Yeah. And you hit walls and vulnerability comes up, or the throwing up thing was your big, and then what happened, you threw up so much during your birth, right? And it pushes you, it brings.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Wow,
You blocked that out.
I blocked that out.
But it brings everything up to the surface to be cleared, right? And so everything that happens on your journey, whether it's to trying to get, you know, becoming pregnant, through your pregnancy, your birth, is all, you know, setting you up for this child.
Yeah.
So, but the birth, I've watched it transform people, and it will transform you if you allow it to. The other day I did a birth. She had 2 babies before, and she got epidurals and didn't really feel anything. And this time she's like, our 3rd baby, I really want to do it without medicine. I'm like, you can do it. And she's like, I can. And she kept calling me, can I do it? And I'm like, you can do it. You can do it. And she did it. And she pushed. She was up against her edge, crying, vulnerability, all these things, doubting herself, just reminding her.
I can't do it. Tell me I can do it.
She keeps texting me. She did it. And she's like, it should be illegal not to let people have that experience that I just had, because I am so transformed by it. I am so powerful. I am so connected and bonded to my baby, because you're in the journey with your baby together. And especially when you're unmedicated, you can feel your child. And I have people talking to their baby and bonding with their baby and connecting with their baby. And, you know, sometimes, nothing bad about getting an epidural because, or a pain.
This is just
pain
her
relief.
experience after. It was so powerful for her. She was like, oh my God, I wish everybody could experience that.
Yeah. She just was like, I feel so connected to this baby right away that I didn't feel before. And because she goes, and I think it was because I was so connected to him during the birth.
Yeah. I will say that, you know, I was like, I want to be clean and sober with this birth so that I can have that magical hallmark moment of me bonding with my child on my chest. And like, I did not experience any of that. I pulled out this like skinny, purple, gooey, slimy thing after 16 hours. I was in between worlds. I had been taken to my edge, and I was like so relieved that it was over, but I just that moment never arrived for me. So like that hallmark moment doesn't necessarily happen.
You were out of your body, Kelly.
I was not my body.
But that's the thing is, The other day, I just did a home birth. I mean, I just talk about the births I just did because they're so fresh.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, they're part of me right now.
I love to hear stories because it inspires people too to have a different.
But I was sitting there with this doctor who does home births and this midwife, and we were sitting there, and like the baby came out, and she just was like not really saying anything, and it took her about 20-30 minutes, and then all of a sudden she put her hands on her chest and then just started bawling and started kissing her baby. And I'm like, well, welcome back into your body, So you leave. And during transition, the 8 to 10 centimeters, the most intense part of your labor, the thinking brain turns off and the primal brain turns on, right? And you literally leave. And that's something I always try to get you to do, is just like go be with your baby. They say a woman leaves her body to gather the spirit of her baby to bring back down. Yeah. So I'm always like, leave. We got you. We're holding space for you. And then when you're gone, you have to come back in. And sometimes it doesn't happen right away. It takes a while. And people are always like, I didn't feel that instant connection. And sometimes it takes a couple days, So it's everybody's different.
How often do you see women with postpartum, and is it a hormone thing? Is it a drug thing? Is it a not being kind of educated that we need to grieve the life that we are no longer in? Like our lives change. Like I felt like there was a grieving process of like, oh, I am no longer that free spirit that I was, like I have responsibilities now. My life is not my own. It is this child's, which I chose and I wanted to, and I never regret it at all. But there is a grieving process to the old you.
Oh, 100%. That's something I work on a lot with my clients, because there's so much guilt. And it's so normal, because every time you birth something new, there's a death of something. And the grieving, you can be excited and about to be a mom and excited about your child, and also grieve the old, because like I always say that like the old is gone. And parts of it are there, but you're birthing this new part of you. Like you not only birthing that baby, but you birth you as a mother. And every time you give birth, another part of you emerges. So there is a grieving process, and that everybody goes through. And a lot of women don't talk about it because they have shame or guilt. And I always usually bring it up because it comes up a lot during pregnancy. Fear will come up. With work, what am I gonna, you try to like intellectualize what your life's going to be on the other side, and you can't, because everybody's journey is different. You just have to let it unfold, and you'll figure it out as you go. It's one of those things. You have to see who you are on the other side.
Yeah, I love that, where you part of you dies, but then a part of you also births with the birthing of this new child, and you look at soul in.
You look at life so differently, right? I'm sure you look at life really differently than before Riley.
Totally. And because I went through that experience, much like your client that you just worked with on her third pregnancy unmedicated, like I was like, oh, women are freaking strong. Like we are the people that bring life through that portal, and we go through that initiation, that fire. Like whether you're medicated or not, women are badasses. And I had so much respect for myself and so much respect for every other woman on the planet, mother or not. Like women are built for badassery.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's empowering to make a baby, carry a baby, birth a baby, however it is. I think women that end up with C-sections are braver than like the bravery, and whether you have an epidural or not, it's so powerful however you choose to birth or however your birth happens. And to feed your baby, to mother your baby, it's empowering no matter how. And so postpartum depression, I do see, I see it. It's I'm seeing more than ever. It's in fact, I'm speaking at a conference about it in a couple weeks, about postpartum, and a lot of it is I'm seeing more both birth trauma than I've ever seen.
And why is that, or what's the trauma look like?
People are, I feel like I told you before, everything, if you have a healthy pregnancy and you feel supported and you feel cared for and you feel empowered and people are like
connected.
Yeah, and inspired, right? And people are cheering, you've got this, right? then it goes into the way you birth, and then it goes into the way that you birth goes into how you show up as a mom, right? And so there's a whole thing going on in the birth world right now where, during COVID, there was this thing called the ARRIVE study, which has since been recalled, where they found that if they induce pretty much everybody, that there'll be a less chance of stillborn, less chance of C-section. It was a very small study. It was incomplete, so they recalled it. And during COVID, it was really convenient because they were like, oh, we can get our office hours in, we can just get in there, we can plan our day, do all these things. And now doctors are still doing it. They're like really inducing people because they can really control a lot. And some women really do need to be induced. Like, thank God for induction. But it's become an epidemic where when there is somebody whose birth intention, I don't like to call it a plan because plans are set in stone, right? And intention leaves more wiggle room.
I like that.
And flow, because you can't,
birth intend, but then you surrender to God's plan. Or
whatever. It's not scripted.
Yeah.
Birth is not, you have to let it unfold and work towards your intention. But these women that are like, I really believe in my body, I believe in the power to do it, and they get into the head and they start saying, your baby's too big for your body. You don't want a C-section, this or that. Like, I've even had somebody say, well, you don't want a dead baby, right? Oh, and then how do you unhear stuff like that? So then they end up caving and getting induced. And sometimes it's 2 or 3 days later and they end up in a C-section. Not all inductions end up that way, by the way. I've done beautiful inductions, but, then there's birth trauma. And then the birth trauma can play into that postpartum. Postpartum was also not, it's having unrealistic expectations of yourself, of the process of your baby, of your partner, not having the support that you need. It can manifest in a lot of different ways. There's postpartum anxiety, there's postpartum depression, there's postpartum OCD. There's a lot of support out there for people that need that. Hiring a postpartum doula can really help. You don't see your doctor if you are in the medical system for 6 weeks after birth. If you're with a midwife, you see a midwife every single week of that pregnancy, of postpartum.
Oh, wow.
6 weeks, all 6 weeks.
Wow.
So there's a lot of things, systems starting to be set up to support women through that postpartum period.
Okay.
Yeah. But we need more.
What do you think, like, if a woman is about to get pregnant or she's pregnant, like, what's the 3 biggest things that you would say to them? Like, above all else, just like if we're going to distill it down to 3 things to take away and like really just like let everything else go, like, what's the three top recommendations you would give?
Choose your team wisely.
Okay.
Yeah. I think, people, your mind is like a sponge, and you hear so many stories. Protect your space, choose your team wisely. People get into your head, and if your care provider doesn't trust your ability to give birth or your baby, they'll start getting into your head and planting seeds early, and those seeds take form and start becoming your belief system. So it's really important to choose your team wisely, to know your birth intentions, and to build a team around those intentions. The other thing is, don't do what you think you should be doing. Follow your truth. And if your truth is to do a home birth, then follow that truth. Don't listen just because your mom doesn't want you to do it, or you've got to follow your truth. If you want an epidural and everybody's like, don't get an epidural, you follow your truth and you do what you feels right.
Yeah.
Because you're going to inevitably end up there anyway.
Right.
So follow your truth. And the third thing for sure is put enough time into your birth. Research, read the books, do the works, take the classes, hire a doula, educate yourself, because this is really your initiation into motherhood. This is like, when people research vaccines, they research, all this kind of stuff. This is you already being a mother to your child, because how they come into the world really does matter.
Yeah, it imprints them, and how you are, the more awareness you have around your energy, your diet, your practices during your pregnancy, you know, the more they're going to have to unpack trauma later, you know?
Yeah.
And of course, doing the best you can. I had outside circumstances that were incredibly stressful, had to navigate them. Didn't do perfect. My child, you know, came into the world with her own mission, and I'm not meant to be perfect. But the more education you have and the more self-awareness and awareness of how much, even you know, the fact that your child is somewhat protected, but they're still getting this energetic imprint from all of your hormones and stress hormones and the environment and the noises and your stress levels. Like, they're getting all of that kind of downloaded into their, like you said, imprint.
Yeah. I'm a big 80-20, right? It's what if you live in a constant state of that 80% of the time, it does have an impact, right? If you're stressed out, because people get freaked out. Like, they're like, but I was stressed, Lori. And I'm like, but you were stressed for a day. Yeah. You were stressed for a week. You were stressed for a month. You know, you went through something I always have people do is just put your hand on your belly and just say, I'm just really stressed out right now. This has nothing to do with you. I can't wait to meet you. I love, you know, and just, it just shifts the energy a little bit.
They feel that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say, you know, when you're pregnant, you're two souls under one skin. What's done to mama is done to baby, right? So it's just something to think about. And you're building a foundation. Well, during pregnancy, the foods, your thoughts, the products, everything you do goes into the making of your baby. And just like you wouldn't build a house on a shitty foundation, you know, you would use the best materials. You want to do that when you're pregnant as often, you know, as much as you
do
have.
Do the best you can.
Yeah, do the best you can.
I remember I felt like it was a crash course in personal development. Like, the minute I got pregnant, I was like, oh, I got to address all my shit. Like, I got to heal and like clear up and resolve trauma and release, like, so that I don't pass it on to her, you know?
Remember we created the bubble of peace?
Yes, I needed the bubble of peace.
You remember you were like the 3 words that you simmer in, and you were like, stay out of my bubble. This person tried to come in my bubble, Lori. I wouldn't let it happen.
Yeah. No, but you need things like this. That was these are great tools.
But you have tools. That was the thing. You had tools to work with your stress. You had tools to like find balance when you felt out of balance. You know, and that's something that I do in my Mindful Mom to Be coaching program, and also in the Mama Portal, is giving this community a lot of tools and a lot of education and a lot of access to experts to hear different ways, and a supportive community of other like-minded moms and moms to be that, you know, support you.
I was gonna say one thing that I was shocked is, like, I spent so much time, because I had this intention to be unmedicated and be the superwoman that I, you know, was hoping that I could be. I didn't spend any time researching breastfeeding and how freaking hard that is. Nobody tells you on your first child how many challenges could potentially come from breastfeeding. It's wild, and how painful. It was like almost more uncomfortable breastfeeding than it was birthing a child. I'm not, for me, not to freak anybody else, but I would like to just, if this is your first time, like, do all the education and research and prep for the birth. That's massive. What I wish I had done differently is educate myself a little bit more on breastfeeding. Definitely, if you're able to figure it, you know, take the free hospital support of the, you know, for breastfeeding. No, don't do that. Okay.
I always say work with a private lactation person before you give birth.
Okay.
And then
if they can afford it.
Yeah, if they can't, definitely use the hospital. There's also breastfeeding courses, classes you can take online, or you can, you know, and definitely seek lactation support afterwards. There's also your insurance. Some insurance companies pay for it. Yeah. So it's so important. Yeah. Some babies did Riley have a tongue tie?
Yeah, tongue tie. Yeah. And lip tie, which made it really difficult and really painful.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't want to harm my baby, but a friend of mine who I don't necessarily see eye to eye with, she was like, oh yeah, you need to like get that, you know, lasered or whatever. And I was like, you're wrong. Like, that is not. And of course, in hindsight, she was correct. Because I didn't agree with her on a lot of other things, even though we were friends, I just didn't I didn't research it. I was like, I'm not harming my child. She's not correct. And but she was ultimately, you know, and now we're still dealing with it, like with dentistry and stuff now, and speech and the way her mouth developed. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Tongue and lip ties, I see them all the time, and I think, you know, a lactation specialist can identify that. For sure. And I'm the worst. Like people are always like, Lori, can you help me with breastfeeding? I'm like, no, if you want to do it wrong, I can totally help you because I'm so bad. Because that's why I have a ton of referrals for incredible lactation people. And I'm like, even if you're birthing at the hospital and the baby is latched and it seems great, still work with somebody with lactation because you don't want to develop bad habits. And tongue and lip ties and cheek ties are real. And if you have any, I do know this, if you feel any pain, it shouldn't be painful. The baby is not latching right.
Yeah, Riley latched on right away, but then because it was so painful, and then I just didn't have, you know, and I worked with a lactation specialist, but I just kind of muscled through different things, and, you know, ultimately, like, my milk dried up because I just wasn't doing it the most efficient way, and because she had her tongue tie, you know, or lip tie, or whatever it was that was affecting that.
And you got it revived, right? Lasered?
No, I haven't done anything yet.
You haven't?
Yeah, we're working on like the myo,
cranial sacral and stuff.
All that stuff first. So, and her speech is, you know, knock on wood, pretty good. But, so that's my recommendation is like educate yourself on birth, read all the things, get your intention and feel prepared as much as you can. And then get some sense of a lactation intention as well, and like some knowledge, some awareness ahead of time, because after you give birth, it's so overwhelming and you're healing down below, whether it's C-section or vaginal. That was something I wasn't prepared for. There's like a lot of blood that comes out afterwards, you know. And again, my assistant's like, God, this is not something I want to hear. She's like, this is terrifying. But I'm just trying to like prepare people with the reality.
No, I do a postpartum session where, because so many people focus on the birth, they don't think about the after.
No.
And it's like,
and I wish I was a little bit more prepared for the healing and that whole 40 days of like the village. I think in, you know, Korea, I believe they have these birthing centers where the mom just goes and gets taken care of, and then like the village like
everywhere
does everything.
But here.
Yeah, that's everywhere but the United States, really.
I mean, and we've bounced back culture. Like, you know, I can't tell you how many times I see people on Instagram and they're like, at the Beverly Hills Hotel, just had a baby 2 days ago, drinking a martini, and they're skinny jeans. And I'm like, oh, my heart breaks for them, because I want to see that person in bed. Yeah. You know, I want to see that person eating warm foods and, you know, people caring for her and her bonding and connecting with her baby. And, you know, and it's like, everybody's like, you look amazing. Oh, look at you. How are you out already? And it's just like that's to me, I'm like, oh, I wish she, you know, could, because
there is a whole healing sacred process of like
an attachment,
eating the right foods and attachments, and really like giving yourself the time to heal. I wasn't drinking martinis at the Beverly Hills Hotel, although I was like back on the tennis court at 4 weeks. And I think I remember going, oh, wow, my hips are like not healed yet. Like,
no.
So I was running and everything was fine. There was no pain, but I was like, oh, my hips are still moving back into, like, I should probably not be out here right now.
Yeah. No. And had I known that, I would have come and grabbed you by the hair and pulled you off the court. Yeah. But your hips are still going back. Your uterus is still going back. Yeah. Like, you know, they say that if a woman doesn't take time to properly heal postpartum, she'll have a hard time. You know, it'll affect her menopause, her overall vitality, her next pregnancies, like her everything. It's so crucial and important. And, you know, more and more people are becoming aware of this. And sadly, you know, a lot of people have to go back to maternity leave, or they have, you know, can't afford to take care of themselves because they don't have help. They don't have somebody to take care of them. You know, back in the old days, the family would come. Yeah. And so what I try to do now is, part of my doula package is we put together a team for afterwards, because I don't do postpartum, but I have postpartum doulas, I have, you know, lactation people, I have people that come do abhyanga and, you know, all these different things that, you know, can come, and we bring, you know, or if they can't afford it, we put together a team where their friends come, or
bring food and bake food, do the things that take care of the mom. And
or you prep, you batch cook before, you know, different things.
Right.
Because it's hard. You don't have time. Sometimes you're not out of your pajamas until
and then the lack of sleep that, you know, pours gasoline on any sort of hormonal imbalance and everything. Fertility, do you have any, like, I just want to inspire people that are struggling right now. I know so many people struggling with fertility. Do you have any inspiring stories of people that you've worked with that, like, turned around when everybody said that they couldn't?
Yes.
Or...
I don't, did you see my post the other day on my Insta story?
No. I'm like rarely, you know.
Okay, I had this client. I worked with her through her first pregnancy, and then she took my class, I think, with her third. But she was told that she was never, ever going to be able to have a baby on her own. She was never going to be able to get pregnant, never have a baby. She's had, I don't even know, I think she's done 26 rounds of IVF. I think she had 16 miscarriages. And she ended up getting pregnant. And I was her doula the first time I went in the room with her. And then she had this healthy pregnancy, little boy. Then she ended up, I think she tried to get pregnant again. 16 miscarriages in all.
That's
right?
so wild to me.
I know.
One is devastating. 16, 26 rounds of IVF.
I don't know if it was 26. It was somewhere around there.
This woman is a strong.
She's so strong. So this
mindset.
Then she, in between her next trying to get pregnant, she had some miscarriages, but then got pregnant on her own. Another miracle baby. The first one was on her own too.
Okay.
Got pregnant on her own, and then she decided that she always wanted to adopt. So she was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to try to have a baby. You know what I mean? I'm just going to adopt. So she adopted a baby. And then she was just like, okay, my family's complete. And then just got pregnant at 41 on her own. Wow. And now she's like, I think she's like 8 months pregnant, and with her third miracle baby that was third miracle pregnancy. She has 4 children. She's going to have 4 kids.
Does she have any idea, did she give you any insight on what switched after all those miscarriages? I mean, your body is telling you something, or maybe it's cleaning out. Maybe she did some healing work on trauma, and those 16 miscarriages were releasing energy that was, you know, part of her healing process. Like, did she give you any indication what shifted so that she got pregnant?
No, I should ask her.
Yeah.
I don't think she even knows, because all 3 of them were not from IVF.
Yeah.
And all 3 of them were from her, you know, just maybe it was like, I don't know.
Like a surrender and like, oh, I give up, and then boom. That often happens too.
Like, I don't know. It does, and you know, it doesn't for some people. It's like, I don't really know what it was, but I'm just like blown away by that, because she posted something the other day, and I reposted it on my story, and I was just like, if this inspires one person to, like, you know,
keep going.
Yeah.
If that's your knowing, keep going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then let's finish with one of your favorite birth stories. And you could take a moment to think, because we could always edit out. But
oh my God, there's been so many.
Let's finish with your favorite birth story.
Oh God, I don't even know. I have
one magical one that you know.
I have a client in Vegas. Her water broke, and I got in my car at 11 o'clock at night and drove out there. And
it's like a 4.5-hour drive? 4-hour drive?
4.5.
Yeah.
I was listening to my little book and like cruising over to Vegas. And it was her first baby. Since then, we've done 4.
Oh my gosh.
And she was just having like predominal labor, which is like inconsistent but very strong contractions. Well, not really very strong. They felt strong, but they were inconsistent. And they went on for about 2 days. Wow. And the midwife came and checked her, and she was like, after about 24 hours, and she was 1 centimeter. And I remember just like, so it was like, now we're on day 2. And it kept going on. And it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was just like, all right, lady, are you ready to get this party started? And she's like, I am ready. And so I sat, you know, had her sit. I sat between her legs. I started doing energy work on her belly. We were talking to the baby. We were doing all this stuff, and I was talking to the baby, and all of a sudden she starts contracting like crazy. Wow. And consistent. And her husband walks out, and he's like, oh, now what are you guys doing? And I'm like, she's like, stop. It's working. Yeah. Just so we went into this whole thing, and then she starts going into you know, labor. Her contractions were like 3 to 4 minutes apart. I called the midwife. The midwife's like, I'll be over in an hour. Put her in the shower. the midwife shows up and she said, well, there's some interesting news and some good news. Which one do you want? And she goes, the good news? And she goes, well, you're 9 centimeters. And she's like, okay. And she goes, but there's not a head, there's a butt.
Oh, gosh.
So the baby is breech.
Oh, gosh.
And so she's like, well, what happens if we go to the hospital? And she said they'll section you. And in Vegas, midwives are allowed to, they can deliver breech.
Oh, wow.
So she said, what if
in California, they're not allowed to?
They are with the doctor present.
Okay.
Yeah. I love breech babies. I love breech births.
Really?
I've done a ton of them.
Okay.
It's just another, thing of normal. A lot of doctors they don't know how to do it. So that's why they're not skilled at it. They haven't learned it in medical school. So like your doctor does them because he knows how. And he's not scared of them. So she's now in the birthing tub, and she's like, I don't have any research. I haven't researched breech. So I put on, Dr. Berlin has a movie called Heads Up documentary. So I put that on for her, and I gave her husband some stuff to read, like both sides.
Yeah.
And I was like, I support you in whatever you choose.
Got it.
And
so you're educating them in real time so they can make a decision.
Yeah, but I also knew whatever decision she made. Like she's in the 9 centimeters. She's with her baby.
Not that much time. Yeah.
And she's in the most intuitive place there is. So
Right.
she said, "Screw it. I've come so far. I'm not doing this. I want to do this at home. It's going to be okay. My baby's going to be okay." Never worked with the midwife, so I was, like, "Hey, can you get somebody else here?" Because to work with you, be your assistant, because I don't
have experience.
I have experience with breech. I don't have, usually I'm used to working with 2 midwives.
Okay.
Yeah. So she got her friend to come, and it was now July. When I was doing the energy work on her, and we were trying to get things in labor, out of nowhere, I hear this voice, "I want fireworks." And I looked at her, I go, "She's going to come during the fireworks." And it was July 4th.
Wow.
And so sure enough, she's in the tub. She's 9 centimeters. Both the midwives are there. The fireworks start going off.
Wow.
And I'm like, of course they are. And then they got her out of the tub, and they put her in the bed. And she pushed and pushed. The little butt came out. The legs came out. And then they were like, "Give us one, really good push." And she pushed. And then the head came out. It's the hardest part. And sometimes breech babies don't breathe right away. It takes them a little bit to transition. So took her a second to transition, and there was a voice inside my head that just said, "Talk to your baby, call her here." So they were like started talking to her and calling her, and then the baby took a breath and started crying, and then the grand finale, the fireworks went off.
Oh my gosh!
And that was like,
chills.
yeah. And then we all laid in bed and like
Independence Day.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, anything last words of wisdom, anything popping into your intuition to say before we leave, and then let us know where everybody can find you.
No, nothing really. I just need to see more of you.
I know.
We have to hang out before you, other than when you have a baby.
I know. We saw each other so much leading up to it, and
I
we were in this
know.
fire, and literally, I didn't see you for like a year after. It was
I know. I miss you.
Yeah.
I really do.
Well,
I love you so much.
I love you.
You can find me at LoriBregman.com, LoriBregman.com, or my Instagram is lbreggy, LBREGGY. Yeah.
And check out, if you're mom to be, check out the Mindful Mom to Be book or Mama Stay, and the Mindful Mom to Be virtual group coaching program.
Yeah.
How often do you do that?
Well, right now I'm doing the Mama Portal community membership, where there's tons of classes and all that stuff. And then I'll do another class probably, I think I'm going to, somewhere in the late summer, early fall, I'll start up again.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Mama Portal. So
Yeah.
you can get a lot of resources there.
So much, Kelly.
Okay.
And your book club, you're the book club this month.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to do a little interview.
Yeah, because mindset is everything.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking me through the biggest initiation of my life, and seriously could not have done it without you. I'm really grateful for you.
Oh, I love you.
I love you. Thank you for listening to the Heal with Kelly podcast. Be sure to tune in every Thursday for more empowering wisdom and inspiring healing stories. And make sure you hit the follow button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss that one episode that holds the answer you've been searching for. Oh, and if you found this episode inspiring, please rate, review, and share Heal with Kelly so that we can grow our audience and reach more people. We truly appreciate it. Lots of love.